The Chicago Bulls, my team. A team that has managed to only infuriate me in these last couple of years, whether it be through not making any moves, or when we do make a move, it's only to seem to take 2 steps back and try and promote it as taking a step forward. Today, we look at the Chicago Bulls rebuild and why it is quite frankly one of the most infuriating things in the entirety of basketball. But we're going to start with the one bright hope of this future, and that is Matthias Buzelis. Matthias Buzelis, our rookie from last season, is a player that I've actually come to enjoy his game more and more. And honestly, towards the end of the season, I was really excited with the sheer prospect that is Matthias. Because coming into the league, his big concern was 3-point shooting. But he ended his rookie season on 36% from 3, only on 3 a game. But still, I believe that that's a promising sign. The free throw percentage being at 82%, again, not a lot of volume, but still, usually you can kind of reflect a jump shooter or just a shooter in general when you look at those 2 stats. And I think seeing his growth has been really fun to watch, and seeing the two-way play. We have missed on a lot of draft picks, and technically there hasn't been like a lot on paper. But when you look at a dude like Patrick Williams, who we looked at and unironically claimed to be the next Kawhi Leonard, the Bulls drafting / management of players seems to have always been a little bit tainted. But to see Matthias develop throughout the season gives me legitimate hope for this rebuild, because if he turns out to be what he could be, he can be our player of the future. And if he's not the guy, I believe we could have found a very legitimate number 2, because as an athlete, I mean, he's all world. Like, he's probably one of the best athletes from that draft class. Just the sheer two-way ability, the athleticism, the vertical, however you want to describe it, it's there. And I think, again, that two-way play is huge for the identity of a team, especially through a young guy. And seeing him then progress to take those next steps, I believe we should try and give him the keys and really try and not necessarily build around him, but build with him. Like, see if we can really maximize his potential while he's still extremely young, right? I mean, the dude's 20. He'll turn 21 before the next season. There's a lot of growth and potential there. We just have to capitalize. So in terms of that, I actually really do like our young player. It's just now the question is, what do we put around him and hope to call this a legitimate rebuild and no longer us just trying to middle along and just scrape and survive to make it to the play-in. But that, of course, will all come around one decision. What do the Bulls do with Josh Giddey? Josh Giddey has had the season of his career. Now, we are still in limbo on whether or not the Chicago Bulls are going to re-sign him. I am personally at the moment leaning towards the camp of we do, but we do so at a better price tag. When the offseason first started, right, you had some reports that he's asking for about $30+ million a year. And as good as he was, I'm sorry, you are not convincing me that Josh Giddey is worth 30 M's a year. You're just not. Has shown tremendous signs of growth in this season, right? The 3 ball is at its absolute highest. He was really able to get the assist numbers up because he was able to be a primary ball handler now. I don't think we should pay him 30 mil, because as much as I do like Josh Giddey and I do like him on this team, I still am a little skeptical of what his ceiling is. Because the question is, for a player like Giddey, is this the best version of him in terms of he has to be in a scenario like what the Bulls are right now? Like a middling team where he has good enough teammates, right? But if the Bulls, I don't know, if they lucked into a superstar in the next draft, or if Noah Asenge turns out to be, I don't know, the next Jordan or something, and then, we actually try and build to contend, will he still be as valuable? I'm not too sure, to be honest. And that's my skepticism with Giddey, and why I am actually a little happy the Bulls didn't just immediately cave and pay him a bunch of money because he had a season of his career. And we instead took a bit of a step back, and we were looking, and we're actually waiting to see what the market is. So I think if you're the Bulls, I would re-sign Giddey, but do it for a much cheaper value. And if he ends up walking, that's okay too. Because if some other team pays him, I don't know, 30 to 28, like high 20s, then you got it. I wouldn't be mad at that point and not tying our books up into a player who I don't think is worth tying our future into. I actually am very, very happy with what he's turned into with this team. I like his aggressiveness more, his ability to get the three ball up. I'm just not sure if we paid him that much, if he's going to be worth that price tag. And again, with the CBA, I'm just not sure if it's the move. But finally, there's one player left I do want to talk about, but this time I know for sure I want him off the team, and not because he's bad, because I think he's a legitimate asset to a team that's contending and we could get draft capital, and that is Coby White. Coby White is a player who has really turned my opinion around on him as the years have gone by. He has drastically improved, and just seeing the way that he's been able to play these last 2 years, finally cracking 20 points a game after a MIP caliber season, I believe what Coby White's been able to do has been absolutely remarkable. And I'm just a little disappointed that the Bulls weren't able to pull the trigger on a trade for him. You're telling me a team like the Magic weren't going to give you draft picks for him? You're telling me there's not a team that's contending or pushing that wouldn't love a career 37% three-point shooter? I genuinely believe Coby White is a legit player in this league. I think he can be a huge, like, either a bench piece or like a legit role guy, like a glue guy. Like, that's our third option. That's our, if things get a little rough, maybe Coby White just provides that spark we need in that game and we can pull it out. It leads to a larger issue, right, with the Bulls as a whole, but I do genuinely love what I'm seeing from Coby White. And again, he's going to be 25 this coming year, right? So you relatively have him at what he's going to be, I would say, give or take. Don't be afraid to try and make a trade. The only trade we had done up to a certain point was to get our own draft pick back for Zach Lavine. That was it. One pick. As I talk about this Coby White dilemma, just in terms of, again, like, he's a great player, but I want to be able to trade him while we really have value, because quite frankly, this middling is not going to be enough. And that leads to the big problem in my final grade with this team. My Chicago Bulls are getting an F. I know it's cruel, but here's my thing. I don't understand why we have not just fully embraced the freaking tank. I don't get it. Why have we not moved Vucevic? Why have we not tried to move Coby White? Like, why have we just not made the solid decision to just say it's okay? We tried, right? When we traded the picks to get Vooch, when we got Lonzo, we brought on Demar, and we thought we were going to make a push. And then unfortunately, right, Lonzo got hurt, and we were just never the same team. But to see us and our management year after year at a press conference try and tell us they're going to be competitive, we're going to be competitive. No, you're not. You're going to be competitive for the 9 seed, the 8 seed, and they get swept in the first round. Embrace the tank. This is the problem. This is why I've talked about self-awareness time after time in these rebuild reports, guys. Because when you don't have any, you become like the Bulls, where you have a lot of draft picks that are just gone because you try and trade for players thinking, oh, this is going to make us uber competitive now. Or you're going to keep a bunch of assets around and never move them when they're actually at their peak value and recognize, hey, this could be a good time to move. We could have moved DeMar DeRozan for multiple first-round picks a couple of years ago. But we were stubborn and, no, we're going to make this push. We're in it to make it. Get out of here, dude. It's just, it's remarkable how okay and accepting and promoting a mediocrity this team is. And it makes it irritating for me as a fan to watch. I always go through a cycle. The beginning, the middle of the season, so around 30-ish games, I'll be pretty locked in with Bulls games, right? I'll try and tune into as many as I can get to. Again, it's a general NBA channel, so it's not uber specific on one team. And then around 40 games, the same thing always happens. We end up about 5 to 10 games below 500. We'll go on a nice 10-game streak. We're about 1 to 2 games over or just at 500. And then it'll just be win 1, lose 1. Lose 2, win 2. Maybe win 3. And then you end up as a 9 seed. You lose to a team like Miami. Again. And we end up with the 16th, the 17th overall pick in the draft. Again. And then we sort of just go, but guys, we're competing. As long as the self-awareness on this team remains an absolute zero, I refuse to acknowledge that this team's grade should be higher, right? Because if we pay Josh Giddey $30+ million a year, the rebuild is somewhat cooked. Because now the CBA, you're starting to tie your hands. You are. And then we haven't moved Kobe White, and I think he's either in a contract year coming up or we have already re-signed him, and still we'll probably keep him, and then we'll overpay him, and then we'll be stuck again. And you know what will happen? Our GM will go up to the podium and he'll say, we're just trying to be competitive. I refuse to acknowledge that. Let me know what you guys think. I tried my best to contain myself. I tried my best not to just completely slip into a rant, but this is bothering me. Because when I have seen some of these other teams I talk about in the rebuild report acknowledge and embrace the tank and try their best to maximize the talent they have on their roster in terms of development, it just becomes so mind-boggling to me. So let me know what you guys think down below. As always, this was Mr. No Hoops. Don't forget to leave a like, comment, subscribe. Have a beautiful rest of your day, guys. Peace out.